feel like I'm stuck.
Hmm?
No, I said, look.
There wasn't a real screen. All right, we get ready to go. We get ready to do prayer. Good evening, Bishop.
Good evening.
Nykeia, this is Bishop Saunders. Bishop Saunders, this is Nykeia.
Hi, how
Good
you
evening.
doing?
How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good, good.
Good evening. I'm your girl, Pastor Stacy.
I'm Mother Harry.
And we're the
The
K-Sides. Hey! And we want to welcome
Yes.
everyone to episode 1 of Life Discussions. We'll be discussing stuff that happens in our lives and those hard conversations that people don't like to have but need to have. And our very special guest this evening is Nykeia Neal from Prime America. And she's going to give us some information on life insurance, why we need to have life insurance, how we can get life insurance, and the importance of life insurance. And along with her is our very own Bishop Tito Thomas Saunders. I don't know why I just did your whole government. I don't know how you want us to address you this evening, as the bishop, the right reverend, or are you okay with us calling you Tito? It's all up to you, sir.
Unmute
I'm
yourself.
good
I couldn't hear you. There you go.
I'm good with Tito tonight. I'm here to learn, to take down some notes, and to hear some good conversation about the importance of having life insurance. Please talk to the people. Talk to us.
All right. And as you know, we're on Facebook Live. There is a 20-second delay. So the K sign is over here working on the opposite side of me so he can make sure if any questions, any comments come up,
To the people, talk to us.
he'll be able to see them. So you want to say, hey, Mother Williams is on. Kamisha, good evening, good evening.
Chanel.
Yes, come on in, come on in.
Hey, Chanel, how you doing? Good to see you this evening.
Come on in as we talk about the importance of life insurance. Listen, just as sure as we're born, we're going to leave here.
Gotta go. One day.
And I'm sure everyone here can agree that we never want to talk about dying. We can't imagine life without our moms, our dad, our grandmoms, our children. We can't imagine none of that, but it's going to happen. And on top of mourning your loved one leaving, then you got to figure out what I'm going to do with them. And if we don't have no money, well, we can't keep them in the backyard. So we got to put them somewhere, right?
Yes, makes sense.
And I know personally in the time of old, my grandmother, I remember she would pay life insurance for her and my grandfather. She stopped paying for her kids once they got grown. She had policies on the grandkids, and the insurance man used to come out to the house to collect her payment once a month.
I remember that.
He would come to the house to collect her payment. But times have changed. Lord have mercy, times have changed. And that's what we want to go into tonight. But before we get into the meat of it, we're going to go ahead and let our guests introduce themselves.
All right. Thank you so much. So again, my name is Nykeia Neal, and I work with Primerica Financial Services. I've been in the industry for about 6 years now. Prior to being in financial services, I actually worked as a case manager in behavioral health. So I work with children who had behavioral health issues in the city of Philadelphia. And working with families and working in our communities, I really seen that there was a need for what I did then, but it's really a need for what I do now, because we need to learn more about finance. We have money in our community. We just don't have a good knowledge of how it works. And I'm using that generalized, right? Some people do, but a lot of us don't. So I am life insurance license, have my life insurance license and annuities license. My investment license is Series 6, 63, and 26. So basically, I'm able to help in all areas of personal finance, not just life insurance, but I can help with saving and investing for you and your family, which is so super important too, because it goes hand in hand with life insurance. Life insurance is that cornerstone, though. It is the foundation of your financial house, because it's really income protection, right? So that's really what we're going to get in today. But I do appreciate you guys for inviting me on, because it's so important to make sure that our community understands what we need, instead of letting other people come into our community and tell us, like, we need to have an understanding. Okay, so that's what's really important, and that's what I really want to get down to tonight.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. All right, Mr. Tito, you want to introduce
Hey,
yourself to the
guys.
people?
Praise the Lord, everybody. Hey, everybody. I'm just here for the ride tonight. I just have a couple things that I would love to share with everyone after we have the presentation on the importance of life insurance. I also want to talk about some of the other things as far as alleviating the stress around dealing with the loss of a loved one that could be very beneficial. And I want to introduce a new term tonight to everybody. It's called a funeral coordinator, and we'll talk about that later on this evening.
Funeral coordinator, okay. And for those of you that don't know, Tito has actually just gone through this process with the passing of his father, what, 2 weeks ago? About 2 weeks ago. So we've all experienced loss, but yours is like right here, fresh. The ground ain't even dry yet.
Recent.
Absolutely.
So before we start, I just want to pray and that for God to have his blessings, and that someone will receive something on this evening that'll be a blessing to their life, and that they realize that not only do we need blessed assurance, but we need some life insurance.
Amen. I like that.
Father God, in the name of Jesus, Lord, we thank you for this opportunity. We thank you for this evening that we can come together and being able to educate and motivate the people of God and all those that are watching, to let them know not only do we need blessed assurance, but we need life insurance. We need car insurance. We need any kind of insurance that's going to help us out in the long run. It may cost us early, but it'll help us at the end. So we need you, God, to help us to be able to listen, pay attention, and whatever knowledge that's needed, that it will be received, and that people can be blessed and people can move forward, and they can know the necessity of the things that we need. So when our time comes, that we will truly be able to rest in peace, because we're not leaving no problems on the ones that's behind. We will forever give your name the glory, the honor, and the praise. In your most matchless name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Amen. Thank you, Elder K-Sign. All right, so let's get into the meat of it. We done had the appetizers. Now we ready to dig in. So we're going to turn it over to you, Nykeia.
Okay, awesome. So to get into life insurance, right, we got to have that conversation about the importance of it and what it does for families, right? So one of the things that I like to talk about is the average net worth of African-American community here in the United States. So what net worth is you take your assets, so it's what you own, minus liability, so what you owe, and then the amount that's left over, that's your net worth, right? So in the Black community, our average net worth is $19,000, right? 19,000. I see your face, 19,000.
Yeah, what are we going to do with that?
My Lord.
Community, the average net worth is 130,000. Okay, so you can see that there's a big disparity, right? So when it comes down to, understanding finances, a lot of us in our communities, we're not really taught, we're not educated about different products. And we kind of just stumble into, from making bad decisions to trying to make the right decisions, right? So the best thing that you can do is have life insurance for your family. So if you have someone that is dependent on your income, you need to have life insurance, right? If you are young, even if you don't have somebody dependent on your income, but think about it, can your parents afford to pay for your untimely death? No. Do you want to have a family one day? So you should have life insurance, right? So life insurance is really the cornerstone of any financial plan. So the importance of it, you want to make sure that you have it because it's really called income protection. So I want you guys to think about this. Let's say you have a husband and a wife, and they're both making about, let's say, $3,000 each. That means they're living off of a $7,000 lifestyle. So that $7,000 takes care of everything in the house. It takes care of the mortgage, childcare, right? Auto insurance, like you mentioned, Brother K-Sign, right? Everything. Now, God forbid if the husband passes away prematurely, how long is the wife going to be able to maintain that lifestyle, right? With just one income, with just $3,000,
Right.
at $6,000 in the house, right? So you've seen people, being financially ruined from that. What can that cause? That can cause them to move, right? That can cause children, if they were going to one school or a private school, to no longer be able to do that. That could cause the wife to not now be able to spend as much time with her children because maybe now she needs to get a secondary job to just make money, right? And if they don't have it, what is the burden that you leave on others? Now maybe the community has to come together, and y'all heard of GoFundMe, right? We know GoFundMe is not life insurance. Okay, but that's how we're using it. We got the fish fries and the cookouts and things like that to try to raise money. But when you really think about it, what is the value? Now, how much is your car insurance? How much you pay for your car insurance? Most people pay more for their car insurance than they do for their life insurance. How much is it?
Sure.
What's the value of your car? Is your car worth more than your life? Right? So we're not looking at it that way. So when it comes down to, okay, we know that it's super important. It's like, okay, Nykeia, we get it. We need to have life insurance. Now, what types of life insurance? It's so many different types of life insurance out there. Is, in the industry, you may not know who to trust. And the first thing we're going to talk about is work insurance. Everyone thinks that when they have work insurance that they're covered. They're like, oh, I have insurance at my job, I'm good. Now, the good thing about having insurance at your job is that it doesn't cost that much. And the reason why it doesn't cost that much is because it's based on the group, right? It's all of these people that work at your job. Then the employer absorbs some of that too. But did you guys know that the employer also gets paid if you happen to check out while you're working?
I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah, right? Because you don't own the policy. And when you work at your job, they don't actually give you a life insurance policy. They give you a certificate of insurability, right? And then there are some people who say, well, I pay a little bit extra so I can have more. But have you ever had a job where you had your health insurance and you left your job and then you got that letter from Cobra and now
I can't stand Cobra. What's my choke that Cobra?
Listen, you might have been paying $80 a month for that health insurance. Cobra letter comes in, they want $480. You like,
yes. Off the chain.
Same thing that happens with your life insurance at your job, right? So, so can you afford that? And then you got to think about this. Do you want to leave your most prized possessions, like your wife, your kids, your mom, whoever is dependent on your income? Do you want it to be your job's responsibility to make sure that they're okay? Or is it your responsibility to make sure that okay? Do you trust that your employer is going to do the right thing? Do you know how it works at your job? Have you ever read through it? Do you know when they're going to pay out? There's some policies at work where you have to work a certain amount of time in order for that to happen. And with COVID right now, there are a lot of people who are furloughed, who are not there. So they're not active employees. So if you're not an active employee, you're not active. You don't have life insurance, right? So you really need to think about those things and make sure that you have the right things in place for you. You don't want to depend on your job. And then here's the other thing. How long do people change jobs more. That old way of thinking of, I have this one job, I'm going to stay there for 50 years. I'm going to get that.
Right.
And that's not happening, right? So we're hopping from job to job. So how long are you going to stay at that job? And then God forbid you get sick or something, and now you are no longer insurable, right? That's a big thing too. So you really need to make sure that you have life insurance outside of your job, something that you can control, because you don't want to put that control of something that's so vital and important in your life in somebody else's hands, okay?
Right.
So that's group insurance. So we know, like, okay, Nykeia, we get it. We need something outside of that. Now there's all these other different types. So there's whole life, right? So these are cash value policies I'm going to talk about first. So it's cash value is whole life, is universal life, flexible, premium, adjustable life, and variable life. I know it's like a whole bunch of words, but basically what that is life insurance that has like a savings account attached to it. Okay. So what people tend to gravitate towards those plans for is because they get excited about the cash value. So with typically speaking, let's say that you have a couple again, and they have $150,000 of coverage for each. They could be paying about $285 for that policy. Now, every month that they're paying that money, some of the money goes towards the death benefit, and then some money goes towards accruing in the cash value. Okay. Now, the cash value can be projected to being about, $100 to $124,000, $25,000 when they reach 65. So when you look at that, it's like, okay, that doesn't seem like it's a bad plan. I have my whole life, I have the death benefit, and then when I get to be 65, I'm going to have, about $100,000 or so. Sounds like a good plan. Now, the question is how much of that 285 do you think is accruing in the cash value? When I ask people that question, they're like, it should be half.
What's that, right?
How about it's not? How about typically speaking on most policies, no money starts to generate in that cash value until about year, 5 or so. Sometimes a little sooner depending on the company. But think about this. If you are banking and you're going to your bank and you're putting $100 every month, and for 2 years you're putting $100 every month, and now you go to the bank and you try to take money out of that account, and there's no money in that account, right? How would you feel about that? I know,
mad.
To say the least,
We'd be mad, yes.
Exactly, to say the least. That's how these whole life policies work, but people don't know that. So let's just go on. Let's say some time goes by and some money starts to accumulate in that policy. And what people, tend to like about them is that, what, if an emergency happens or anything, I can take money out of that, right?
Right.
Right. But it's considered a policy loan. You have to borrow that money. It's your money, but you have to borrow it.
That's what I was going to say. We got to borrow our money.
Crazy. That's crazy.
And if you borrow it, Brother Case, what you got to do? You got to pay that back, right?
Yeah, you got to pay it back.
You got to pay it back. And they're going to charge you an interest rate. And that interest rate is normally 5 to 8%. So again, this is my money that's growing. I need to borrow it. And then they have to pay it back. And they reserve the right that it could take up to 6 months for you to get that money. Okay. Mm-hmm. That's not helping anybody in an emergency. Now, what they don't tell you, it gets even worse, because what they don't tell you is now that you borrow that money, if you don't pay it back, it starts to accrue, right? The interest, like student loan debt, really, it starts to just add up. And then, that policy can end up imploding on itself, because if you don't pay that loan back, you could end up losing your life insurance. Okay.
Yo, that seemed like a scam.
It do. That's crazy.
Again, when you don't know, you make some choices.
Right.
That you don't know. Now, here's the worst thing of it all, though. When, let's say, this family that I talked about, let's say, the family, the husband and wife, they get older, they have, unfortunately they're driving, let's say, car crash, because we don't like to talk about death, but death, like you said, Brother Kayson, it's going to happen. We just don't know when, right?
Yes, to happen.
So, let's say that they're driving and they both unfortunately pass away in a car crash. Okay. So now that's $300,000 that the company should pay out. Okay. So that money would go to the beneficiaries, the children, right? Now, what about all the money that's in that cash value? So we're talking about $100,000 that's in that cash value. You would think that money would go to the children as well.
To the kids.
Yeah.
Not. It's considered a living benefit. Okay. You can't live and die at the same time. So the life insurance company keeps all of the value, and they only pay out the death benefit. And if they had any money that was outstanding that they borrowed, they deduct that from the death benefit. So let's say that they owe $10,000, they take that from that 300,000. So that family will only get $290,000. Okay. So that's how these whole life policies work. But, we don't understand that. So we are putting all of this money in and not knowing that that cash value doesn't get paid out. Now, how would you feel knowing that you thought you were doing the right thing? You had this policy, you've had it for years, and knowing that it's not even going to go to your family. It's one of those things that's like, wow, I didn't know, right? So that's whole life. Now, when people look at it and they say, well, what's the benefit? Some people look at it as, well, I'll have it for forever, right? Like I'll just keep paying on it and I'll have it. And so whatever I do pass away, I'll have it. But a lot of times you don't have enough insurance, right? Because we keep, like you said at the beginning, a lot of times people think about life insurance only in terms of burial. Well, what happens after the funeral?
Right.
What are you leaving your family behind? Paying forever on a $10,000 life insurance policy. That's what most of our older people have, right? And they have the policy, and like you said, the insurance man comes to get it. And they're like, listen, if anything ever happens to me, you're going to go in this drawer or you're going to go to the bed. Like, it's always a policy, always somewhere, right? They pay that policy, right? So that's that. And then they have universal life, which is really popular now, because the popularity of universal life is that people look at it as it's sold as like a retirement thing. It's like, oh, you're going to have your life insurance and you're going to have this other money that's like this investment money. So
you see, that's called universal?
Universal life. Yeah. So people get excited about that. So it's still a cash value, policy, but it's tied to an investment, normally like the S&P 500, right? So what people really love about that, the way that it's sold to them is, again, it's like, hey, listen, you know what? You want to save money for retirement, get this universal life. You'll have, your life insurance, and then you'll have this and you'll be able to use this, and this is tax-free. And they use all this jargon, but those policies are so expensive that people don't know. There's all types of expense charges and ratios that come out every month, but people don't know that, right? It also works depending on which plan you have, if you have A or B, but it can work just like the plan that I just talked about, the whole life plan, where they keep the cash value later. But the thing about the universal life is that the cost of insurance continues to go up. So let me give you an example, okay? So let's say that, I'll stay with the 150 example. So let's say you have $150,000 in coverage, and let's say that you're paying, $100 a month for it right now. And let's say you get it at the age of 30. Well, life insurance is based off of your age, your health, and your lifestyle, right? So the older you are, the more unhealthy you are, and your lifestyle kind of crazy, then the more money it's going to cost you. So when you look at the universal life, the cost of insurance continues to go up, meaning you're getting older. So it costs more money to keep the policy because you're getting older, okay? So let's say now you get to age 40 and you were paying $100, but now, it could cost $130 just for that policy to still stay in place. Well, if you're sending in $100 and it costs $130, where are they going to get that extra $30 from every month? They're going to take it from your cash value. So if you have to think about it like this, let's say if you have a bucket and there's a hole in the bottom of the bucket and you're pouring water in, is that bucket ever going to fill up? It's not. I see. No, it's never going to fill up, right? I see you like, no, it's not. So that's the same thing that happens to your cash value when you have these universal life policies. You're just pouring money in, but the cost of insurance is still going up and it's just seeping out the bottom. And then what ends up happening is that they'll send you a letter that says, hey, if you want to keep this policy, you owe us maybe, $2,500 or whatever the case may be. Now you can look that up too. There's been a lot of lawsuits against companies like Transamerica, who've been sued twice because of those policies, because when people got older in life, they thought they were going to have those investment accounts and they didn't have them, they imploded on themselves. So they've been, sued plenty of times for that. So those are the type of policies, that I just don't agree with. Now then you have term life insurance. And now the thing about term life insurance, people look at it and they say, well, I'm not going to have it for the rest of my life. Why is that a good thing? Well, when you think about term life insurance is just that, it's pure insurance. So just like your car insurance, if you don't get into an accident, Do you call your car insurance company up and ask them for money back? I mean, we wish
No,
we
you
could.
don't. No, you don't. Just kicking out money.
We just kicking out money. They got these little programs sometimes. They're like, oh, you were a good driver. We gave you like, you know, a little $100 like kickback or something like that. But
Yeah.
generally speaking, they're
Yeah.
not giving you anything back, right?
They
Same
don't
thing
give
with
you
your
nothing
health.
back.
Not at all. So term insurance is just pure insurance, but it's super cheap. Okay. So when we talk about that $150,000 example, you can get a term policy for $150,000 for about $30 a month. Okay. So now you're saving $70. Well, what are you going to do with the $70? You're going to invest it. See, that's where we missed the boat. See, we don't invest our money. So if you are putting your money away every month and you're putting it into an investment, you can generate monies that you'll have. Let's say you have a 30-year term policy and you're investing that $70 for 30 years, you can replace what you had in your life insurance. But that's
Wow.
not something we're taught. Now, if you look at Susie Orman or Dave Ramsey, they talk about these policies all the time and strategies that you use. And that's exactly what we teach here at Primerica, because term life insurance can give you so much more coverage. Instead of you spending $100, you know, as like a 40-year-old now trying to get life insurance, that may only give you $25,000 in coverage. That's not enough for your family. But what if you had, for that same $100, $250,000, and your wife was covered and your kids for $100? See, that's how term works, right? And then when I talk about investing in the difference, you can use mutual funds. I'll give you a quick example of how that works. So we know when you invest in a stock that you have an ownership in one company, right? Now, the great thing about that is if that company is doing really well, the market's doing well, you're gonna make, you know, money. But if they're
Money.
not, then you could lose money. If they go bankrupt, you lose all your money. Well, mutual funds, you heard that saying, never put all your eggs in one basket.
Right.
That's mutual funds, okay? Because it's diversified. So you take that same $100, it goes into about 100 different companies. We're talking about companies like Amazon, Target, Home Depot, you know, Exxon, all these different companies. Now, if one of those companies in your investment bundle goes bankrupt, you only lose $1. You still have $99 left. The only way you can lose all your money invested in mutual funds is if all of those companies go bankrupt all at the same time, same day. How likely 100 companies gone at one time? Not happening.
Yeah.
And the average rate of return for mutual funds is about 10% since its inception. So you see how that's how you are able to generate money to replace your life insurance. So, you know, I know I've been talking a lot, but I just wanted to give you the basics of how it works. So I'm definitely open for more questions. People have policies that they may not understand or anything like that. You know, we could definitely talk about it.
Thank you so much. And yes, while you were talking, several questions came up in a chat. You want to go ahead, Elder?
Yeah. One question was, what happens if the person passed away tomorrow? Does it pay at the time of death?
Okay, so that's a good question. It depends on how long you had the policy. So there's what's called a 2-year contestability when it comes to life insurance. So the life insurance company can contest, so to speak, the death within 2 years. So what that does is it actually protects the life insurance company from fraud. So basically, if somebody lies on their application, you know, somebody can say that their health, they can misrepresent their health. They could say, well, you know, I didn't have, you know, diabetes or whatever when they did the policy, and they could have died from like a insulin coma or what have you. Also for like cases of suicide, if somebody decided that they wanted to end their life, maybe they go get life insurance now and then go do that later, right?
Okay.
So in that 2 years is contestability. Now, typically speaking, I can't speak for all companies, so that's why you want to have that conversation with your life insurance company. I know for our company that soon as you complete your application, for most applications, you're considered conditionally covered, meaning, God forbid you passed away before the life insurance, while I was going through underwriting and everything, that if long as your application and everything checked out, Primerica will pay. But it just depends on, you know, the situation, because everybody's situation is different. But if you had that policy over 2 years, now the contestability is not there. And then typically speaking, for our company, we're one of the fastest that pay out in the industry, that you have to then, your family submits the death claim, they fill out paperwork, and then for us, you're normally getting that check delivered in about 10 to 14 days.
Now, just for clarity on the question that you just answered, so if the policy is contested and the insurance company say, no, we're not going to give you $150,000, what happened? Do we get?
They give you the money back that you put in. Mhm. So let's
From the
say,
beginning of it?
yeah, so let's say that for, that year, you put in, let's say $900, then your family would get the $900 back. So the main thing is that when you're doing any type of life insurance application, you want to be honest. Like, there's a couple people in life that you need to be honest with, and
Yes, it is.
your financial people
Yes, it is.
are one of those people. Is your doctor. You got to be super honest with your doctor, your attorney, your tax accountant, and definitely your financial advisor, your life insurance. You want to make sure that you're not accidentally leaving anything out, because sometimes people ask you questions and you'll forget that, oh, I had was taking medication for this 3 years ago, but I forgot about it. Or people are prescribed medication and they self-diagnose like, oh, well, I'm not taking that anymore, I'm fine, but it's still in your history. So you definitely want to be honest and forthcoming about everything. So everything goes through underwriting and there's no nothing left out.
Thank you. All right, now I have a question. With the term life, you were saying is money that go to insurance and money that go to like investments. So will we be paying money, say $100 to our insurance and $100 to the investment, or is it just one payment? No.
Okay, so for our company, I can't speak for others, but for the way that we work is that let's say that back to that $100 question. $100 is for your life insurance, and then your investments is completely separate. So we work with several different companies that we can use for that. So we work with AXA, Legg Mason, Franklin Templeton, all of these great powerhouse companies. And then so for that, we would then look up, depending on what you could afford every month, we're working to put a financial game plan in place that makes sense. And if you could do $100, then we're starting with $100. And if you're working with me, I'm trying to find the money. Let's go over your budget. Let's see, how much Chick-fil-A you're eating for the month. Let's try to figure it out. So you would rather have more money, later, instead of just spending it all frivolously, because that's what happens. Right. So once people, when people look at a budget, they look at a budget as like punishment. You hear that B word, you're like, no, but that's not it.
It's my money. I want to spend it now.
But the thing, you can spend it. You just got to know how and when, right? So a budget is you telling your money where to go instead of trying to figure it out at the end of the month. You like, all right, how fast you ever break $100 bill and 2 days later, you like, all right.
I shouldn't. That's why I want to get change.
Right. But your budget, you can have everything that you want still by budgeting it out. And that way, making sure that you save, because you should be paying yourself first. We missed that step.
I like that.
That's
pay yourself
right.
first.
Pay yourself first.
Pay yourself first. That is so important.
How long have you been working in this
industry?
Yes, industry.
For 6 years, yes. And I will be a regional vice president at the end of this month. So I'm super excited about that. I love what I do. I have such a passion.
Congratulations.
But I want to see our people win, so I'm out here helping everybody. Yeah.
How have you seen this industry change over the last 6 years?
What I've seen change is it's actually, I want to say like the middle class person is getting left out more and more, because other companies are now raising the lids on how much money you need to have before they'll even sit down with you. So what I'm starting to see more in the industry is that, the middle class, you get more taxed and everything in this business, and in this tax bracket, should I say, and the industry, as it relates to that, nobody cares about, oh, I have $25,000 to invest. The big companies don't look at it as a good thing. It's like, oh, you don't have like 250,000. Some of the entries is that. And the great thing about Primerica is that you can start out with getting a mutual fund as low as $25 a month. So it's always good to start somewhere and build. But that's what I would say that I've seen change as much in the industry. That and an influx in policies that's like life insurance policies kind of convoluted, whereas the investments and the life insurance is all together and people don't really understand how they work.
So at what age, would you suggest an adult or a young adult should purchase insurance? Because
Well,
some people wait until they get married to get to get life insurance
well,
because their wife make them or
right.
the husband make her.
And I sit down a lot and they're looking at each other like, we need to get this now. We should have got it. Right? And you don't want to get yourself in that position because, things happen in life that you can't control. You get illnesses that you can't control, things like that, which could stop you from getting insurance. So to answer that question, it depends on the adult. So if you have a young adult who is like responsible, they pay their bills on time, they're going to be responsible for their payments, then somebody as young as 21 can get the policy. Now, younger than that, if you're looking at 18, 19, 20, a parent can be the owner of the policy. And when that child is, getting older and they're responsible, then you can turn the policy over to them so that you can make them the owner of their own policy at that time. But I would say, for me, I didn't get life insurance until I started working with this company. I didn't start working with this company until I was 35. So I didn't even know about life insurance like that. And when I got it, I was a single woman. But when I started working with the company, I was like, oh, I should have life insurance because something happened to me. I don't know, my mom could bury me. And eventually I want to have children. So let me get it in and lock it in now. And now, 6 years later, I have a 1.5-year-old and I have $630,000 of coverage for myself because I want to make sure that she's taken care of,
That's amazing. That's amazing. And on what you just said about the parents paying the policy for the children and then the children can take it over. Mm-hmm. Could you explain a little bit? Can parents purchase policies for their adult children? So if I got a 24-year-old and he won't go and get insurance, can I just take a policy out on him?
Yes, you can. Because you can be the policy owner. You have to have an insurable interest. And insure, like you can't say like your neighbor and your neighbor might be wild. Oh, this guy might check out. I might as well get a policy. you can't do that, right? But definitely for your children, you could get a policy for them because you have that insurable interest for them to make sure, because it would fall on you more than likely, if anything happens. So you could do that. And then it's a simple process with us in terms of turning it over to that child. Like now, once they get it together.
And would that be the same thing for grandchildren if we wanted to get insurance on the grandchildren?
Yes, you can get the insurance on your grandchildren as well.
Okay.
I got a question for you. Mm-hmm. My life insurance situation has gotten better since I've been married, but my older sister got a policy out on me. Can I take that from her, or like can she just continue just keeping that policy over?
Yeah, she can continue it because she's the one who got it for you. So she
and the one that's been paying it. How you gonna take her policy?
Yeah, but yeah, you gotta talk to her about that. Yeah, well, people do that all the time. Like a lot of older people too, especially, they have policies on everybody. It's like all the $10,000 policies for everybody, and then they have like Gerber life insurance. So a lot of parents, they get Gerber life because it sounds great, but think about it. Why are you buying life insurance from a baby food company? We never think about it like that, right? It's a financial product from them. But with Gerber Life, it works
because of the commercials. They got commercials, and that's what make us get it.
But Gerber Life is the same as I talked about with whole life. That's Gerber Life is the same. It works the same way. The other thing is people, the way they advertise, they have like the Gerber Grow Up Plan, right? And people think the Gerber Grow Up Plan is the same as getting life insurance, like meaning when they grow up, they're going to have money for college and all those things. It does not work like that. In order for that college plan to work for Gerber Life, you're looking at having to pay, probably about $100 or so a month and get that back. So it doesn't work that way. So you definitely want to call and ask questions, and you can call me. You don't have to be a client. I will help you navigate to make sure that you have what's right for you and your family.
Wow, you just said a mouthful right there, because everybody be like, soon as somebody have a baby, let me get the Gerber policy. Mm-hmm. And I'm guilty. I thought it lasts forever. and they could just take money off of it, you know, when it's time for college or they ready to buy a house.
Let me tell you, Pastor Stacy, when you look at that policy, you've been paying it, let's say you get it when your baby is born and you pay that policy for 18 years. When you look at that cash value, it's probably $8,000. Who's going to college with $8,000?
For 18 years?
Who's going to college for that? Like, come on, when that kid gets there, that's like books and
That's highway robbery.
yes, but that's how it works. So that's why when we talk about investing in difference, that think about this. What if you, when your child was born, what if you put $50 away every month for them into a mutual fund? How much money would you have then, right?
That's what we need to be doing.
Exactly. Oh, don't worry. If you work with me, I'm all about that life. That's what steps.
Girl, you just hurt my feelings. But in a good way, in a good way.
Mm-hmm.
You hurt my feelings in a good way because I thought I knew something. Like, why? $8,000? I really feel some type of way because we have a son that's in college right now with a full scholarship and we still got a $3,800 bill. Like, so if we only had $8,000 to get off of his insurance policy, we would be in trouble.
It decreases the death benefit too, and you still have to pay it back. So it works the same way as I talked about with the whole life. It works the same way, even with the GERPA.
Wow.
Okay.
We got another question from one of our Facebook viewers. She asked, do the mother have to get insurance for children over 21 and up have to sign for the policy the parent take out?
Yes.
Oh, that's a good question. That's from Cassandra Drain. Thank you, Cassandra.
That's a good question. So I can't speak for other companies. I can speak for so for my company, yes, your child needs to be aware that so if you're getting life insurance for somebody, they have to be aware. You can't get the like sneaky policies. You can't do that. You know, because they can contest that. Or if it's been times that I've had somebody and I'm doing a policy for them and then it goes up and their name pops up in our system already. And I'm like, you got a policy for it? Because, so yes, your child needs to be aware. For us, I need to see that they are a real person because there's a lot of insurance fraud. So what can happen is, this is an example. There was a woman who tried to get life insurance for her son. Her son was in jail, but you know, she said, oh no, he's upstairs asleep. I'll just take it upstairs for him so he could sign. You know, so you have to, you know, it's insurance is a big deal. Like, you know, and as a licensed, you know, professional, you don't want to lose your license. And so you want to do everything that you're supposed to do the right way. But they just need to know they're not on the hook for paying. The parent is getting it, they need that. But there's medical questions that goes along with the policy. So you have to make sure that those questions are answered correctly too. And that you can verify.
I'm just curious because you mentioned prison. People in jail can't have life insurance?
Unfortunately,
you can't get life insurance?
If they had it before they got there, then it's not like once you get to jail, your life insurance is over. No, but for unfortunately for felons, they a lot of companies don't insure. For us, you have to be outside of 10 years, and then there's a process, you know, that goes through for that. But that's a whole nother conversation, right? That we know that we get felonies and charges more than anybody else because of the legal system and all those things. So I definitely don't agree with how that works. But yeah, that's why it's important to make sure that you insure your kids too. I mean, not to say you raising your kids, but you understand what I mean, because right. About our policies is that if you insure your children's lives, for us, if you put one child on, all the rest of the children are on for the same price. So you don't have to pay anything additional. So let's say you have $25,000 and it costs $16 and you have 6 kids, every child's life will be insured for $25,000 for just $16 a month. Okay, and then when they get to the age of 24 and a half, they can have their own policy at that time, up to 5 times the amount that they had as a child without any additional underwriting being done. The importance of that is in guaranteeing their insurability as an adult, because we know things happen later in life. Like my sister, she had Turner syndrome, which is a developmental disorder. And if luckily she had life insurance, but now as an adult, she may not be able to get it because of that. So that's why it's so important to make sure that you insure your children as well.
I have a question. At what is the age in which the children are no longer considered riders on a whole life policy or a term life policy with your company?
Well, so we don't believe in whole life at all. So we absolutely do not sell it because it's not good for the consumer. But for the term, for the child rider, the age of 24 and a half, because life insurance is funny. It's 25 in life insurance years, but in our years, it's 24 and a half. Because once you get to the 6-month mark, they age you up. So that's why it's 25, but it's really 24 and a half. And then after that time, they can have their own policy.
I think those
we
are
have-
things that needs to be communicated well within our community. That if a parent has a policy and you have 6 children, they are covered up until they're 24 years old or 25 years old as a rider on your particular policy.
Yeah.
I think sometimes that's not explained to parents, and people become hesitant in acquiring insurance because Gerber does seem to be cheaper. So if I go with Gerber, I'm paying Gerber for 6 kids, plus I have a policy with you on myself, you could take that money from Gerber and invest it because your children are covered under your policy as a rider. So it's all about the transparency and how people assimilate information.
Very true, very true. And that's one of the things that we do too. So if we do replace like a whole life policy, whatever money that you had in your cash value, let's say if it was, $2,000, you can then start your mutual fund with that and then add to it. But that's really important what you said too, because a lot of times we don't think about it in terms of the amount of coverage. A lot of times it's just, we should just have coverage, which I commend people, at least you have it, because there's a lot of people who don't. But then it's how much coverage are you going to need? If this, child is, sometimes people have $5,000, and it's weird numbers sometimes life insurance companies give, or parents will have one child insured and not the other because they thought that they got it when another child was born. They might
everybody.
You always want to review your financial, plans at least every year, so you know exactly what you have, and the beneficiaries. Go back to find out who your beneficiaries are. Maybe you was married and now you're not, and you still, or you was in whatever the beneficiary is, and maybe you don't want that person anymore. You definitely want to go back, because God forbid you pass, like that person's name as beneficiary, that's what it is. You can't say, oh, we broke up. Like, no, it doesn't matter. You want to make sure you go back to that.
All right, we got another question from Joe Adams, and he says, "What if the child is wayward, which is very possible, and he was on drugs with no whereabouts, but it's 18 plus? What does a parent do?"
Ooh, that's a good question.
That's a good
because
question.
You don't know where that child is, but if something happened to
go
him,
ahead and answer it professionally, and then I'll come back with the other.
No, because I was going to say, because if you don't know where that child is, they grown and they out there. But if something happened, guess who they gonna call?
Listen, when your child out there and they wilding out and they running amok and they running through the streets, doing this, that, and everything, but right. When something go wrong,
they gonna find you.
They gonna find who they parent. Who they parent. Who they live with. Who in charge of it. Who the first of kin. And I'm not gonna put my truck up on collateral because he out there acting a fool. Somebody asked how much they charge to burn them.
You gotta pay for that too. That's not even free.
That's $200, right? Compared to $10,000.
Yeah, well, I mean, to answer that question, like I said, life insurance is based on your age, your health, and your lifestyle. So it's the application asks questions to see if you're insured. Like they look at it as if you're insurable. So kind of like when you think about your car insurance, so your car insurance, they look at your driving record. And if you have like a bunch of, red light tickets and all of those things, they may not give you insurance. So it's going to cost you a whole lot more money.
Right.
So it's the same type of thing. So unfortunately, you can't produce your child, so to speak, to do it. And then it depends, because if their lifestyle, like if they have, like one of the questions they talk about, have you been in placement, like as far as like drug and alcohol placement and things like that. It's not to bar you, not to say that they'll turn you away, but that they want to know what the lifestyle is, because they're looking at it like, okay, well, you get this policy and then, 2 months later, because, like you're addicted to drugs, that you OD or something like that. So they look at the risk assessment of it too.
That's crazy to know that a person could be uninsurable. That's
Yeah, it is. And that's why you gotta get it now. Don't wait. Get what you can afford, and you can increase it later, but get what you can afford so you don't have to worry about that. Because that's when most calls I get, people when something happens and now they're like, they had some kind of life scare and now they're trying to get insurance. It happened to somebody very close to me,
Okay.
She didn't do what she was supposed to do as much as I was telling her to. Then she had a scare in the hospital and then wanted to do it. And then the company said, no, they want to wait 6 months now to see what your health is going to look like. So don't wait. Don't wait.
So I'm sure you've been getting all those phone calls now that it's COVID. I ain't want to hear nothing that Nykeia had to say, but now like, girl, sign me up.
Yeah.
For 14 days, sign me up.
But that, what's important that you said about that too? Yeah, got to get it too, because COVID, some companies are not insuring people because of COVID. And then even for our company, if you test positive, you have to wait 90 days. So don't
you got a probation period for
this is serious. We're in a pandemic. People
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So if something happened between you and the time you take the test and before the 90 days is over,
you just get your deposit back.
You out of luck.
Well, that's if you test positive. All right. So if I'm sitting down doing the application, I ask you, like, have you tested positive, for COVID? If you like, no, then you're okay. But if you did, and you tell me yes, now we got to wait from whenever that test was that was positive. You got to wait 90 days out. So I got to see you 3 months later. Here's another question. Your application.
Bishop, you had another comment or question?
No, I was just going to share my little part after you finished on what you're doing.
Cassandra asked, what's the name of the insurance company? I put in Prime America in there. And
she was also asking about, what if your children are older than 25?
Can she want to get a policy? You can still get a policy on your older children. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she just said your children got a sign to say that they know you got a policy.
So I just wanted to make sure she had that clarity.
Yeah.
She had that clarified.
Yeah.
Dovey got a question in there too. You see it?
Yeah. She says, which insurance policy pays as soon as a person dies?
Uh-oh.
It's back to that same, it's pretty much the same question earlier.
Well,
so I'm gonna say it again. So it depends on when you got it, right? It depends on, one of the things I forgot to mention too is, are you on time with your payments? Are you still in that grace period? Because there's like a 30-day period where insurance companies will let you stay in there. Like if you miss a payment, it's kind of like, again, I keep referring back to car insurance because it's still insurance. You know how you still like insurable to a point, and then you don't pay and then your policy lapses. Well, if your policy lapses, you're not insured. So God forbid you pass away during a lapse period, they don't have to pay out because you're not current. So, and going back to that question, it really depends. So if you had it outside of 2 years, it's definitely, pays faster. Like I said, our company is about 10 to 14 days.
We have some people in here that's asking about your job and what you offer, and like, do you want to leave an email address or a telephone number?
Yeah, you can. I can leave both. You can take when we you want just
you can put it in the chat, and then we'll type it on the Facebook screen.
Okay.
Yo, you have really given us a wealth of information tonight. And this is just amazing. You already know I'm ready to talk to you because I got whole life policy on these kids, and now we might need to change some stuff up for the whole family.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, some of our people wait until, travesty happens in life. And now we trying to create a GoFundMe, like everybody not kicking it out to a GoFundMe, especially nowadays, because you got
Because there's so many.
Employment rate is unemployment is so high.
Mhm.
You know, people trying to struggle to figure out, you know, how they're going to eat from day to day. So, you know, trying to have a life insurance, some of them look as a luxury,
Right.
but I believe it's more of a necessity.
Absolutely. You know, when you look at it, it's because, you know, not for nothing, being real, we look at a lot of times in our community, life insurance is, you know, people don't get it because they're selfish, because it doesn't benefit you while you're living here, right? Life insurance benefits your loved ones when you pass. People usually, when they come to me, they get really excited about investments and all of that because that's going to benefit them here and now. But you have people depend on your income that you care about, that you want to see do well. And when we talk about legacy, life insurance can create a legacy. Like, what if you left your children money so that they had $100,000 when they started and they don't have to get student loan debt? They can start a business, they can invest and get real estate. That's where we're missing the boat, because we're starting over again every generation, right? But if we have that money, you know, think about if we had more like $1 million policies in our area and all of that, like in our community. Are they killing us as much when they know they're going to pay? Like, you know, like, not for nothing serious, like, because financial products and services, it matters. Knowing and having money in this country, it matters, you know, and we can do it, and it doesn't cost as much as you think. Like, don't go to Chick-fil-A 2 times for the month. You can pay for your life insurance, but you got to be serious about it and committed, you know? So that's what's important. And just so you guys know, whoever wants to meet with me, I don't charge a fee to sit down and talk to me. You know, consultation is complimentary. So I will definitely, you know, help you as best I can. So don't have to worry about like, oh, I got to pay $50, me with or no. We'll set up a Zoom just like we're doing now. Talk to you, get you straight.
Right, you hear that, Mother W? Because she was just like, I need to get with her.
And our sister Cassandra, she's look like she's wanting to get in touch with you as well. Okay. So we put your number up on the screen for anybody that's concerned, anybody that, you know, want to have somebody in their life that are truly not just want to take advantage of what they have to offer, but what they can do to help and bless your life and make things easy for you and your loved ones when that time comes, because it's going to come. Right. He promised us 2 things, that you're going to be born and then you're going to die. Some people used to say, I'm going to stay black and die, but that don't always work nowadays. So, you know, we're going to live and we're going to die. So we might as well be ready. We want to be ready spiritually, but we need to be ready naturally as well. I love that idea, because I don't know. Well, my mom passed, she left me some money. I was young at the time, so I just was a little frivolous with it. But, you know, if it would happen at this age, oh, no, would her beside me too? Oh, my God, I don't know what we would have did. So, you know, it's very important. It's very, very important.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you guys so much for having me on. I appreciate the time, you know, being able to get to our community and educate people. Definitely.
And we appreciate you, because a lot of times we don't know. There's nobody to share this information with us. So now that we know better, we got to do better. And to recap some of your main points, and you said pay ourselves first. Yeah. I like that. I like that, because as you were saying that, I was like, okay, I take 10% off the top to give my tithes, and now I'm going to take 10%, another 10% to give to me, to pay me to invest in our future. And that the life insurance policy is the cornerstone of any financial plan, because God forbid something happened to one of us, we need both of those incomes. Yes. You know, I can't go live with my mama and them with 5 kids, you know, so we're going to need to replace that income. So the cornerstone of a financial plan and your net worth. We need to find out what we're worth. You know, am I worth the amount of pocketbooks and shoes that I have? Am I worth, you know, you got a 50 pairs of jewelry is, so we need to know our net worth. You know, and the fact that somebody's depending on you. So for that couple that may just be starting out, you know, you still in your 20s and think ain't nothing going to happen to me. But if you got children or you got somebody that's depending on you, you want to make sure if you transition, you know, to heaven, that your family is taken care of. You don't want to leave that burden or that gap in income for your family.
Absolutely.
I just wanted to make sure, as I thought I heard you say it. When you sign the application, because someone is asking, I don't think they heard. When you sign the application, then you already are like halfway in there, right?
Conditionally covered.
Additionally covered. So
Oh, they even got a cute name for it, conditionally covered.
So I hope you have a better understanding, Sister Cassandra, so that like right after you get with this wonderful Black queen and get on her insurance policy and get with her company, that right after you sign off, you have a conditional plan with them. And then you just have to go through that process of just confirming everything else. Isn't that the right way to look at it?
For the most part, yes. It just depends too on your health though. So if you're somebody who has like a whole lot of health issues, then it's a different process in terms of the conditional coverage. But if you don't have that, then yes.
All right. Before you go, Bishop, I just want to share our screen, and we want to say again, thank you to everyone that joined on tonight. Here is our little commercial about this upcoming stuff that New Hope has going on. That's our little commercial. Yay. All right, Bishop Saunders.
So I just wanted to share real quickly with everyone, especially before my sister goes, is that two things. One, at a time of a person's death doesn't have to be stressful. It doesn't have to be stressful. If we do all the things that proceed a person's death, as far as making sure that we have them insured, they are insured, and making sure that we have some written instructions, it makes your life less stressful. Write it down. I know it's a difficult thing. I know most people are like, I don't want to talk about it, just do whatever when I'm gone. But it is best practice to make sure we write it down. If it ain't nothing but you could take all my Nike sneakers and my boots and give it to this person, take my lip gloss, give it to this person, take my bags, whatever it is, write it down. Make your situation less stressful. The second thing is, and that this came to me in the midst of 2020, is I call myself a funeral coordinator. And we need funeral coordinators, just like we need wedding planners, just like we need other people who coordinate things in our lives. having a funeral coordinator is something that may be a necessity for people. For one, this one individual, wherever you hire them or acquire them, they can be that point of contact that take you from the unfortunate time of the person's transition all the way through the repast and thank you cards and such. All of these things become so many nuances to people where they just don't know what to do. When your loved one passes away, that person should be able to contact the funeral home, get in contact with the insurance company, make those initial arrangements, make sure that that person has the capability of putting out a proper announcement about the transition of your loved one, especially
Got a
on
Facebook
social media
post.
pages. Not just she died. Wait a minute. No, we need to put out something proper. They can assist you when you have to meet with the funeral home or the funeral director, assisting you in going through all of those charges that the person is sitting down and writing. Like, wait, you charging me $35 for an announcement, but where you putting this announcement at? Where does this $35 announcement, where does it go to? And you find out that it goes to the Southwest newspaper where they got a contract where they put your loved one name in a newspaper for $35. But having that person help you navigate through that process. Do you need a family card? Do you need flowers, obituaries? What does the service look like? Whether it's at the funeral home, whether it's at a church, putting those things together, making sure everything is captured. Because as much as I've been in church for all these years, you can believe some of the mistakes and errors that I have made planning and coordinating and helping with funerals. I forgot to order a service in my grandmother's obituary. The order of service never made it to the obituary. Now, it was typed, it was there, but I never sent it to the printer for him to list it inside of the program. Now, fortunately, my family had 800 pictures in the obituary, so people didn't notice it, but it wasn't there. So if you had someone that was a coordinator, they can make sure all of those I's are dotted, T's are crossed, and all of those things. They'll help you through the process of picking a cemetery and what all of those requirements are, flowers and repast, and just having someone there that's a point person, having that person there with you on the day of the funeral, so that they coordinating with the preacher and the service coordinator, so people aren't walking up to the family, what you want us to say next? Like, no, you need somebody that's designated to be able to do those things. How does your company work with once a person untimely passes away or transitions? Does your company work directly with that family, or is your company coordinated where they work with the funeral homes and coordinate all those things for the family?
Well, they're working mostly with the agents. So what happens is us as agents will get a notification, and then we reach out to the family to see how we can aid in any kind of transition. What we like to do, honestly, is to deliver the check face to face to the family a lot of times too, so that way they know, like, hey, like kind of saying like, hey, don't blow this money, like, take it, do what you have to do, and then we can still help you, put some money aside and have like a financial game plan for it too. But then there's instances where it depends on the family if they want the life insurance company to, directly help the funeral home. So it's just everything is like case by case, depending on what that family wishes are. And just to note that we, like you're talking about having your wishes written down, we do offer, it's a company that we work with that offer wills as well. So they're able to get a will through us. And one thing, like you said, making sure you have that person, because sometimes people put beneficiaries down and a person don't even know they're a beneficiary. They don't even know that the person had life insurance. So that's important to have those financial conversations like you're talking about too.
Those things are so critically important, because if you pick up the telephone and you want the beneficiary of that policy, you're not going to get any information. And if you don't know who that person is and you don't have a hard copy of that policy, that insurance company is not going to work with you. Yep. They're not going to work with you at all. Now, you may have a funeral director that may have a relationship that may be able to find out who that person is. But oftentimes, if we don't have those kind of things coordinated in place already, it could be a very challenging situation when people transition.
Also, you don't have to just choose one sole beneficiary. If you have, let's say, a responsible person, and then you want to leave some money to your children or whatever, you can separated, so to speak. So you can have like, let's say 50% going to one person and 50% going here or something like that. Somebody that you entrust with doing the right things, you know, like you're saying, that coordinator person in your life is important.
So Tito, is there a position that you can actually go and find somebody that's called a financial coordinator, or you just designate
No.
somebody?
No,
Okay.
I just made that up. That was one of them things that came to me in the midst of the pandemic, is that we should have funeral coordinators. So those that are listening, if you have a creative mind to help us put this together, I will surely work with you and we can come up with a whole new business venture. And
Right.
it maybe it's something that we should be doing as clergy. Maybe that's something we should be doing. Maybe that's something that MBFA can offer to our constituents and such. That we need someone that will be there to immediately step in and say, okay, I'll make the phone calls, I'll contact the family members, I'll do all that. You take this moment, breathe, relax, grieve, and allow somebody to be able to do that. Fortunately, I have been that person for my family, along with other parts of my family have always jumped in and we've been able to do what we need to do. But I've been in situations where families just don't have any idea. They have never met with a funeral director before. They've never gone through the process before. They don't know what to expect. They don't know what to do, where to turn. I have people calling me now. Is any churches available? Is a funeral home director? Is it somebody can sing? You know, somebody that could do this or that. And it's important to do that because we need that. You know how many people call around looking for singers or looking for musicians or looking for somebody to eulogize their loved one, whether it's in a funeral home or in a church. So this is something that dropped in my spirit to consider and just bring out there. I mean, I don't have an issue with somebody else taking the ball and running with it. But I think it's so important that we do that, coordinating with the transportation and all those kind of things that happen the day of a funeral. It can be taxing. Those things can be really taxing, especially if it's an immediate situation where you're grieving. You know, we have these extraordinary people in the world who can coordinate and then eulogize and bury and serve food and do all that and greet the people and write the cards and do all those things. We have extraordinary people out there that can do that. But then you have other people who just don't have a clue. Like, I don't even know where to start. I don't know what to do. All I know is my mom or my dad or my loved one just passed away. Help. What do we do? How do we help navigate people so that they're not getting ripped off from funeral homes?
Right.
And upcharging and doing all those things that they do. I happen to know a little bit about the industry, so you can't sell me no $8,000 casket. You just can't do that. I know what the retail cost is. I got it on my phone. So when I meet with you, I'm like, oh, there you go. You go order that from Walmart and it'll be here tomorrow. So we don't have to go through that. But those are things that if you have somebody who's knowledgeable,
Right.
they can help walk you through that process versus, you know, Slim Jim funeral home talking about your joint going to be 18,000. And you're like, well, wait, what are we doing? What 18? What? No, can you bring that down? Then they be like, okay, we can go down to 9. Well, 9 is still kind of like, we really about to spend $9,000 to put somebody in the ground? But it all depends on the family, what they have, what they don't have, and so forth. And I know this may not be popular, but I'd rather you have some insurance than no insurance at all.
Amen. That part.
The worst thing can happen is they refund you what you put in, but at least you have something coming back. You should have something versus not having anything at all. And it's how do we get people to realize that their life insurance is not just another utility bill or a cell phone bill or a cable bill. We're adapt to paying the cable bill. God knows I pay this cable bill every month. Now I'm trying to figure out, did I pay my insurance? Did I pay? Was it for 3 months? 6 months? Was it every month? And then before you know it, it's lapsed. You don't have it, but that cable on, that cell phone is on. So how do we educate our community that having basic life insurance is something that we should have and that we should be committed to making sure we have it. And we shouldn't assume that other people have it on us when we should have it on ourselves.
By having conversations like this.
And I agree with you, Bishop. And I think we're going to get with Liz. We're going to create some flyers and stuff. I'm going to get with you. And we are going to be the funeral coordinators. And we're going to connect ourselves to Miss Neal and all them people out there that got loved ones that's getting out of here. And they need somebody to help and direct them in the way. You come and join Saunders and Kason funeral coordinators. And we will make your ending to be pleasant. We will make the ending to be pleasant.
Go ahead.
So y'all
sir,
come
run
on, come
with
see
it.
it.
Come on.
Come see us. Come see Saunders and Kason, funeral coordinators. We're going to help make your ending to
S&C
be
services.
pleasant. Yes. And we will service you up and down the East Coast, from New York to Florida. He'll take care of the North. I'll take care of the South.
But honestly,
We will supply your needs.
It really is important, especially in the day and
Yes.
time in which we're living in, where just in the city of Philadelphia alone, we're averaging 25 deaths to COVID-19 a day. That's a strain on the industry in totality. Healthcare, funeral homes, insurance is just a strain when you're having that amount of individuals that are passing away. And then when you multiply that over the country, 4,453 deaths, that's I see why the insurance company can you hopefully
Yeah.
I will be putting an ad on Craigslist tomorrow for funeral coordinators. Yes, we're
Can
going to
you
make this
imagine,
pop.
like last week I called a funeral home just to get an update on something, and they told me my wait time was 26 minutes. And I'm like, did I call the right number? I thought I had called somebody else. And I hung up, I called back. Your wait time is 28 minutes. And that's the magnitude of what is happening in the world we're living in. That some people don't have no patience to be on no phone for 28 minutes. You need a funeral coordinator. You need somebody that can get these things done and accomplished for you.
That's right. That's right. None of our clients will have to worry about
so important. Insurance is so important. I say, please make sure your children are covered from the day that they come out the womb until the time that God calls them home. It is so vitally important. It does it. Sometimes the amount is what it is. Yeah. Folks will work with you when you got something. Yep. But when you're presenting absolutely nothing, that's a challenge in itself. Social Security only gives you $255. Please do not let that be what you banking on, because that $255, that's not going to happen. If your loved one is on Social Security or disability, the government now calls in those deaths within 24 hours. So bank accounts, all that stuff is shut down, shut off. You don't have no access to it. So we need to make sure that we are doing things timely and in advance. Go ahead. I think I sparked something. Go ahead.
No, that was I was just thinking. My grandfather is 90. Bless his heart. He still lived by himself, and I help him with some financial matters sometimes. But one of the things that we just did was to add beneficiaries to his checking and savings account. That's not done for you automatically when you just open an account. You have to go and get that done. So you want to do that. So again, we talked about the coordinator and all of those things.
Amen. I got to write that down because we need to do that too.
Yeah, so that way you have a beneficiary on there. They're not getting hit with the red tape that, like you said, everything gets shut down. And having a book that just has just your stuff of what, your life insurance, who's the beneficiary, where your bank account is, where your things are. So your family's not scrounging around trying to look at pieces of paper and mail, trying to piece together your life to figure out where everything is. That's really important. To just have all that stuff just centralized with that person that you trust. You can do that. Passwords like that.
That is so true.
That is so true.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely so true. And it is so relevant. It's so relevant that we do that.
I'm so glad you said that, because I need to make sure I put Shaheem down and not Kevin. Kevin will go out there and buy some stock in McDonald's, and Shaheem will be using it on something intelligent.
Some Yeezys in a PlayStation.
But those things are so important.
Yes, it is.
I've been saying to myself, recently, something happened to me. Everybody might as well just go on with me. I might as well be like Pharaoh. Just come on, go with me, because folks ain't gonna know what to do, how to do it. They just gonna collapse and fall out in the street like, yo, we need his brain to come back on. Can you turn his brain back on so he can tell us where the stuff is at? So I know within myself, I need to write down everything. I need to make sure everything is in alignment. And you just gave me something powerful that I'm going to be calling the bank and getting those paperwork and adding on those beneficiaries. Because what happens if something happens to me? Who has access to my church account?
Yeah.
Who has access to it? Who can get into those things and know what all those things are? So this was good for me. I appreciate it.
Good.
I got some new homework.
Again, these are the conversations that we need to have. And I'm sure you're going to be getting a bunch of phone calls about these adult children.
I mean, I hope so. A lot of times people get excited right now and they're like, I need to do something, but what ends up happening? Well, tomorrow life happens, you go through the mundane and you put it back on the back burner again. So just don't let that be the case. Like, just, even if it's something small, just start. I don't think you gotta have everything together and in order. Just start. That's the most important place, is to make the phone call, send the text message. You can text me, you can email me. Just start.
Right. I'm writing these names down. So I could be your accountability partners. Everybody that asks questions, I'm writing your name down to make sure that you have the information to get in contact with Ms. Neal. And she's on Facebook under her name. Her phone number and email address is in the chat. And so like she said, right now, you got that momentum going, you're getting those questions, and then tomorrow something happens and we don't want it to be another 6 months or a year. And you be like, oh yeah, I needed to get that insurance policy. So I'm gonna be your accountability partner.
And we really don't want our people to waste too much time in making this happen. Because when you say I'll do it later turns into sometimes never. And we have to do things intelligently. The Bible says about us doing things wisely in business. Yes. And this is business that we have to be wise at, that we have to be good at, that we have to be intelligent at, that we have to be having all urgency, because we don't want to leave the folks that's going to be behind in a crazy predicament. I've seen it, Ms. Neal, recently, and for those that'll watch this later, I'm talking especially to you 35-year-olds plus, the 40-year-old plus, the 45 to 50, the ones that we was just young, and now we're not as young as we used to be, and things we didn't think about when we was younger that we need to start thinking about now. Because I'm telling you, over the last couple months, I've lost 3 classmates that I graduated from high school with, that we all is in that 43, 44, 45 range. And I mean, within a couple months, I've lost 3 people that was all within our age range. So we got to realize that the inevitability of what death is closer now than it's ever been in our lives. So why don't we do the things that'll make a difference even when we go on?
Absolutely. So again, we want to thank Miss Nykeia Neal from Prime America being with us for our first edition of Life Decisions, Life Discussions. And if you want more information about our future shows, you can go to our website at newhopeftc.org. Go ahead and put that in the chat room. We ask that you will follow us on YouTube, subscribe to our YouTube page. Thank you to all our New Hope members that's watching. And our next episode will be on Thursday, January the 28th, where we'll talk again about finances and how to get into the stock market. So that's Thursday, January the 28th at 7 p.m., same time, same station. God bless again, and thank you so much for joining us. Yay!
Thank you, Ms. Neal. Thank you for all the knowledge.
Thank you for having
me. Give to all the people that will see this live and on the replay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thanks, you too.
Be blessed.